First off, I want to say thank you for joining us today. I know that your time is valuable, so I'm going to try and keep my my remarks brief so we can get to the meat and potatoes of the purpose of this meeting. And again, great to see good turnout and an interest in this and how we might be able to work together on this project. Number one, the goal of this project is to improve traffic flow, operations, and safety at the intersection there. My understanding is that that was one of the first signalized intersections in Rocklin, and now it's going to be one of the many roundabouts that will help us down the road versus being in a gridlock situation by 2035. The project will also be improving underground utilities, so that may be some of the work that you see first, so some sewer improvements. And it's going to replace the concrete intersection with asphalt and of course a beautiful island with some cool granite features to kind of keep the motif of the quarry district, complement that. So there'll be new landscaping and street lighting as well. And overall, this is going to improve our mobility for those heavy left turns onto Pacific, for those heavy right turns onto Pacific, and heavy right turns from Pacific onto Rocklin Road, and a lot of that traffic. It's going to help circulate that much better. So being that you are stakeholders in this and that you're fronting this area, we want to partner with you throughout the construction process, keep you informed, so schedule updates, project updates. And in order to do that, since I'm all of one or two engineers for the city, we've procured a construction management firm, Mark Thomas, to help facilitate that. I'll be involved with them, but they will be our representatives in the field for this project as well. And like to let them have a chance to introduce themselves here and kind of what their role will be and how we can bridge any communications. So I'll turn that over to Nick.
So I'm Nick Graves. I'll be the resident engineer for the project. I work for Mark Thomas. So my role on the project is to oversee all of the inspections that Mark Thomas will be doing on the city's behalf, materials testing, quality control, enforcing the contract, monitoring the schedule and budget and all that, and being an extension of the city and to the folks on the ground, to you, to the contractor, and our staff will be out there every day, making sure things are done correctly. So I'll present a little bit about the project and the construction process. So as Keith mentioned, we're replacing the intersection, signalized intersection with a roundabout. The roundabouts typically improve safety by reducing the number of severe collisions like T-bones and head-on collisions. And then they also improve intersections efficiency. And so I want to discuss with you folks some of the details about the construction process and what you can expect. So we will be replacing all the pavement surfacing in the project. Like Keith mentioned, tearing out the concrete intersection in the middle, replacing that with a landscaped island. All the new pavement will be asphalt concrete instead of Portland cement concrete. New striping. And while we're doing this, we will also need to replace the sewer main through the project. Since we're tearing out a lot of the street surfacing, it's a good time to make those maintenance repairs before we have new pavement instead of after. So we'll replace the sewer main and reconnect all the sewer service laterals from your building into the new main. We won't be going up to your building. It's just the connection at the service at the main street, or at the main the main pipe to the service laterals. And service won't be interrupted. You won't notice any impacts on your facility in your services there. We're also going to replace, put in new landscaping, decorative lighting, new striping, signage, relocate some of the storm drains so they align with the new curb and gutter, and then replace sidewalks and driveways within the project. And so this is a point where I want to start having conversations with each of you about replacing things like the sidewalks and driveways. And so in the next probably 2 to 4 weeks, I'll want to reach out to each of you folks to set up some one-on-one meetings so we can discuss what the impacts might be on your facility, and then what your operations on site look like. So our goal is to keep everything open, keep the intersection open. We're not going to cut off any access, completely cut off any access to properties. And so we will need to work with the contractor to phase the work so that way you always have access to your property. Part of those conversations that I want to have with each of you is how does your access work? How do your operations work? So things like, what type of deliveries do you typically get? When do you get those deliveries? What kind of truck? Is it an 18-wheeler that shows up, a tanker truck, or is it a box truck? So that way we can plan with the contractor how to make sure that they're still able to get in to provide services to you. Some other things that we want to consider is customer access. So vehicle access to your driveways and parking lots, how are we going to still get them in? And then pedestrian access, whether that's from the parking lot into your building, or if someone's walking down the street and wants to go in, how are they going to get to your doors, your front doors? And then also, where is your primary access? Do you have secondary back doors that we need to be aware of? Are any of those emergency exits? Things that we'll need to consider so that we don't unintentionally create a hazardous situation for you and your customers. So I want to set those up, have one-on-ones with you, answer your questions, and I want to do that sooner rather than later, so that I can have that input from you for when I go and sit down with the contractor and start planning out the work. So this kind of gets to the next thing I want to discuss with you, which is the overall project schedule. So we have a bid opening today for the project. So contractors will submit their bids to do the work. There'll be some time for the city and myself to review those bids, make sure they're complete, and then go through the contracting process between the city and the contractor, and award the project, go through some of the planning, and then start up. And so before we start planning with the contractor, I want to sit down with each of you and have your input. The schedule overall, probably start noticing possibly the contractor on site doing some preliminary setup later this fall in mid to late November. Some of the activities early on that you might see is maybe some equipment show up, fencing off, temporary fencing for the empty lot on the corner there, possibly some exploratory digging to identify where the underground utilities are and how deep they are, so that way we can try to avoid striking them when we're in construction. And then a bulk of the project will most likely begin in the spring and occur next spring, summer, and then wrap up in the fall. So we don't have a lot of the day-to-day details or the phasing of how it's going to work or exactly when things are going to happen. The contractor has some leeway depending on their availability of their subcontractors, their equipment, their crews, and all that kind of stuff to figure out the best order to do things. But as we learn that information and we work with the contractor to develop that based on input we get from you and what just makes sense for the project, we'll share that information with you. We have a project website on the city's website. And so we'll upload updates and information to the website. You can feel free to contact me if you have questions. There's going to be an email address you can ask questions for. And we'll have folks in the field that can help if you have an immediate concern or question about what's going on in that particular day.
And then we also do have a project web page. That's going to be at www.rocklin.ca.us/roundabout. And on the website, there's going to be some more information. We'll also have the recording from this meeting up on the website, just the presentation, so you can go back and view it later if you'd like to review some of the details. And then also there's going to be a button for you to sign up for email updates. So if you'd like to stay in the loop and hear about construction updates later on, you can do so there. We also have a hotline for this project, and that is also on the screen. So the number is 916-775-7625. And that hotline will go to us, and we will, when you leave a message, we'll work with the project team to respond to your questions and comments. There's also the project email. That's going to be at roundabout@rocklin.ca.us. So if you have any construction or project related questions, you can email that as well. And then as Nick stated, we'll be reaching out to schedule the one-on-one meetings later on. And then also we'll be updating the website with information about the construction schedule and phasing as we get that information. So with that, Keith or Nick, would you like to say any last closing words or anything before we wrap up?
Just to reiterate, grateful for the interest, number one, for your time today. And Nick and I look forward to working with you to work out whatever little details and big details that we need to work out so that we can partner on this project and get, keep businesses moving as well as this project. So we're looking forward to that. We believe this is going to be a successful and a great addition to the city.